Welcome back to Blazy B, where I'm Blaze and I'm B. Yo. Okay, today I want to talk about one of my favorite things, gardening. When I mean gardening, I mean token the ganj. um, yeah, I I am a cannabis user, right? I feel like we all know that. But it's you know, it's just a thing I do, and so I feel like a lot of people are scared of it, especially, like, now in our lives. It's either, like, you're a stoner, or you are a stoner, or you're just, like, not, and you're not gonna get into it because it's the devil's lettuce, or it's just, like, not what you do. But then some people, like, want to get into it now with dispensaries. They're having, like, a change of heart, with weed, and I'm loving it. And I feel like we don't educate enough with just how weed works in the world. It's legal in so many states recreationally that I feel like you need to know. You just need to know. Even if you're not a weed smoker, it's kind of fun to get the lowdown on weed, marijuana, cannabis, ganja, the devil's lettuce. Que más? My mom calls it just fried brains. You're just fried brains if we're high. We are not allowed to be high at the house or around the house, around the perimeter. So it takes a full on walk to the nearest park. But even then, you can't show up high back to the house. Back to rule number one. So, yeah, that's what Matthew's apartment's for. It works out well. But so I love weed. It's also called flower when you're smoking it, like smoking actual flower, because marijuana is a plant and it flowers, and then it's the flowers that we smoke. They're dried out. And you can see a lot in those flowers. So it's pretty cool. Um you can like see these trichomes and like these crystals on these buds of these flowers, and they're pretty beautiful. Like different strains have different colors. There was a really good gelato I had once that had like orange coming off of it. Then you've got your like cushes and your dark like granddaddy perp, and that weed is legit purple. Like legit dark royal purple. It's beautiful. It's also an indica. So, okay, marijuana comes a lot of ways, but it comes as three different strains. So you've got a sativa, which is your upper. It's like a pumper upper. Some people say it gives them anxiety because it's just like a lot. Like you're energetic. You're like up. Your mind is like moving. If you wanted to do something like love sativas for going on a run, going to the gym, let's hit that sativa. You want to get some work done, still be a little high, sativa. You want to just like really be active, sativa. But again, some people say they don't really like that sativa vibe. I love that middle ground, the hybrid. The hybrid is a great blend between two things: sativa, so your upper, indica, indicouch. Think just like, that's what you're typically thinking on Dazed and Confused. You're just like stoned and just like, bleh. That's an indica. Like, literally think you're melting into the couch. And then your hybrid is right, your even Steven middle ground. You could, veg out, binge watch a series. You could do something creative, active. That leaves it up to the stoner, the user, the one who gets to decide what they want to do with their time. So I would also like to like bust that myth that marijuana just makes you like completely bleh, unmotivated. Yes, it can if you make it. I do think you kind of have this choice in the matter if you've got a thought at hand and you know your limits. You don't want to get too high. There is such a thing. It'll never kill you, but it might induce a whole lot of shit you don't want to deal with. It might make you feel like you're kind of Like if you're going to close your eyes, you kind of get the spins if you're too high. Not a fun feeling. Always lay on your left side. It'll wipe it right out. But you can get to that place that you're uncomfortable and you don't want to be there anymore. I have been to that place where I'm high and I'm like loving life and I'm just like vibing and I'm kind of nodding off and then I'm like, fuck, I do not want to be this high. And that's hard to get rid of. I've heard milk is kind of a come down. I've tried it. It kind of works, I guess. Eating, really, honestly, eating helps just like kill that high for me at least, truly. Like eating an actual meal really hits. But so you've got your sativa, you've got your indica, you've got your hybrid, you have your flower. So these flowers are cross strains, just like any other plant. They can be bred into different things. That's why names of weed are so much fun, in my opinion. Like you've got things that are like crossed with Gorilla Glue number 4. There's a lot of Gorilla Glue numbers. But then you've got like gelato, like I talked about, or like a Durban poison is a crossbreed. Um, Granddaddy Cut or Granddaddy Perp, I think is like an OG strain. And then that can be crossed with a lot of things. Um, yeah, so there's just like a lot of things, but some terms like you're always gonna have like a sour diesel, that type of taste, or green crack. That's gonna be your sativa uppers. But then your cushes, your Afghans, your granddaddies, your kush is a lot of your indicas. So those run in those strains. So you really get to, if you get into weed, you can figure out through, their genealogy and their tree where they come from and what, if you vibe off of a certain strain, you can see if that one's crossed with something else that you might like too, or, any way around that. But bud tenders are a great way. I used to be a bud tender for like a hot minute, for like 2 months, pre Peace Corps. And and honestly, I learned a lot and I was like, "Damn, this is great." Like I love this because in Washington, it's definitely not like Illinois. Illinois feels like you're in a dentist office and it's very closed. No one wants to like pitch you that, like no one's selecting it based off like how they're feeling and what they want. And I feel like in Washington, you have to treat it like you're going into a Walgreens pharmacy. Like you'll have people being like, "Hey, I've never smoked. I'm really not for smoking, but I would like to try an edible. I have trouble sleeping and you know, what do you think?" And then you're like, "Okay, cool. Well, here's a selection of like nighttime edibles. I also have these capsules that are just CBD, THC, like nighttime capsules, if that's what you're into. Like, you don't want to eat it, you can just swallow it. Great. What about some creams? Like, is that going to you go in the direction of the customer, and that's freaking cool. And then Washington, you're able to like touch your weed. In a lot of other states, you're able to touch your weed just like you would do at a Walgreens pharmacy. You're like, "Hey, here's some choices. Look at those. I'll go grab some other stuff we were looking at." And you're just standing there with products in your hands, going through it, reading the label. Like, does this kind of fit what I need? And then you decide from there. Same with buying flowers. Say Stoner comes in and he's like, "Yo, dog, what? I am going to the mountains. I'm going to hit the slopes today. And I need something up there." And the guy in the back's like, "Dude, I have the best shit for you." And they come out and they're like, "Okay, this is the newest. I've got Fruity Pebbles right here. It is so sick. Look at these trichomes. Look at this. Yeah, the percentage is lower, but dude, the way this feels hits like no other." And the guy's like, "Sick, I'll take it." Like, boom. People know enough for the feeling you're going for. Like the vibe of the bud tender is to pick up the vibe of the customer and get them what they want for that occasion. And so many times it's the nature, people. And I like that people aren't afraid to try different weed because weed also like comes in and out and you can, okay, so let's go to the sizing too. Weed is sold, especially in Washington, It's literally like hung everywhere in whatever size you'd want. You go to Oregon, it's very different. Same with Colorado and now Missouri. I have gone to a dispensary in, also they call them dispos out here. LOL. I still call them a pot shop. A dispo. That was new for me. But so in Missouri, in Oregon, in Colorado, you go in and they have like big jars of weed and they're grown for like a specific place, right? And they've just got big jars, a smaller selection, but they're going to weigh it out in front of you. And once that's gone, they'll probably get a new product in and it's a different strain. So I mean, every time you're really rotating through that weed. In Washington, it's already pre-packaged and it's packaged into a 1 gram packet, an eight, and also like not all companies have all the sizes. Some companies just stick to like a full ounce, 28 grams, or a half an ounce, 14 grams. But most people, like if you're selling to the masses, you're really hitting that eighth. And if you want it to be like kind of a higher quality, like you want a taster weed, they'll sell them in a gram. So you got a gram, an eighth, a quarter, and then so you got a gram, 3.5 grams, 7 grams is a quarter. And these are, think of an ounce, a full ounce, an eighth of an ounce is 3.5 grams. A full ounce is 28 grams. That's how weed, it's math. So make sure you remember your fractions. You'd never really say a 16th ever. Once you got an eighth, a quarter, a half, and an ounce. Yeah. So, and from that, pricing just ranges. Illinois, it's like 3 times the price as Washington. I think it's just because Illinois is so new to this industry, and they just don't have like everything up and running like a well-oiled machine like Colorado, Oregon, California, and Washington. They're just like, we've been doing this for a while. So that's interesting. But the prices in St. Louis are still lower than Illinois. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, it's all interesting. It's kind of fun to visit all those dispos around the US and see how different they are. Washington I prefer though. I like a just like nicely packaged, sealed. That's like the one thing in Colorado or like Oregon, and they're putting it in and then they kind of seal it, and it's still not like it's been opened. Like a bag of weed that's been opened smells like it's been opened, but a bag of weed that's always been closed does not seep any smell. Um, yeah, like at all, I swear. And so I do like the fact that it's just like already weighed out and you can have so much more variety. Like you've got 200 different types of weed around you. You have quite the selection. And you know the brands to get. Like I love Soulshine. They're like one of the best. They have a Narnia strain that kicks ass. Also their Himalayan Mountain is like an indica that's amazing. But okay, all these different things, right? And dispensaries, great. But all this is just flour. So this is like the base product. This is like straight from the plant. Then you get into these concentrates. Like when people take dabs, dabs are like an oil concentrate. So you can buy a dab pen as well. You can just take a dab, which it can be pretty rough. And it depends on a dab rig you would have. But basically, you need like a blowtorch to heat up this like circular piece in the middle. And you're going to just heat that mother trucker until it's bright red and just hot. And then you have a little like pointer tool, like it looks like a little scalpel with a scooper at the end. And you're going to use that all metal tool, take a little bit of your dab, dose it however you'd like it. Some people rip dabs, some people just like little babes. Um, but then this rig has probably got water in it. I mean, it needs to kind of filter with something. So it's either like a little bong added addition on top, or I've smoked like a submarine and it had like 3 pipes going down and it had a dab rig on top. You can usually switch out any bowl of like something with a pull out bowl, like a bong, or mainly a bong, anything that has just a detachable top. you can switch out for a dab break. So, anyways, little bowl, very hot, scooper, then blowtorch off, hotter than hell. Take said dab, put it in the middle, swirl it around mid suction. And you're trying to rip this entire dab in the full thing. So you really just want to start off with a little baby dab because they just rip you. Because this dab is an oil concentrate of the plant. So it has been stripped off the plant. And it's just super concentrated. So as weed would be like 18 to 25%, you have got a dab being like 85%. It's potent as hell. So in college, you'd rip a dab, you'd do a strikeout, is what the guys would call it. They'd hit a dab, they'd take a shot, down a beer, then blow it out. Whew, baby, that'll rip you. Then we go out. Wow, to be 21. What a time to be alive. Oh, good Lord. But dabs are intense. They are up like, whoa. So then a concentrate for like a pen, like a vape pen, are interchangeable. They are like, I don't know, it's a universal thread on them. Usually, unless they're going for a specific, like a PAX pen needs a PAX pod. And these other like arrow pens need an arrow pod, things like that. You can buy specifically made for those things. Other than that, you can buy a $10, $5 short little battery with or without like a button. And then twirl it in. They're like USB chargeable. And you twirl it in, and then you've got like a pen top, a vape top, a cartridge, as they would call it. And they can be a half gram, they can be a full gram, but those are going to also be your concentrated. When they're like a live resin or you see live rosin, that's like you're getting parts of the plant in there. Other things, you get like a distillate, which is they are taking those oils and they're like taking all of the like weedness out of it and keeping all THC. And so it's going to be a hit to the head straight, but you're also going to have flavor because they add flavor because you're not getting that weed flavor. You're not getting the strain of the weed flavor. You're just getting like a THC concentrate. This is like sometimes up to like 96% or something like that. And then they've got like a banana flavor or runts or whatever the hell, tropical sunshine. Um, and you can hit that. And some people call it the Benjamin. Gonna go get Benjamin. And you can take that anywhere. It's very disguisable. I actually found one in Washington that looked like an elf bar, like a nicotine bar. And it was just a disposable little guy, 1 grammer, cute. It was like grape wine flavored or something. So you could go whichever way you want. More natural, just process the hell out of and just a hit to the face, straight to the dome. You got a lot. So that's your vape pens, and we've got your dabs, and we've got your flour. Then you've got edibles. So like weed, butter, or oil baked into something edible. So gummies are big, chocolates are big, mints are big, and you can have like 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams. I would say if you're going to start an edible for the first time, I would go for a 10 milligram, but only eat half and then see how you feel in an hour. Depending how you feel, take the other half and just start with that. Because some people feel it. Some people kind of need that initial like blast off to even feel it. Um, I like to start with a 10 milligrammer. Even as a person, I don't do a lot of edibles, so they like hit a little harder than typically. But yeah, I like to start with like a 10 milligram. Granted, I might go up from there. And some hit differently than others. I know people that don't respond well to chocolates, but they really like gummies and vice versa. It just really depends on how your body processes it and how you feel. So go off of that. If you're making at home edibles, no, you do not put weed into your brownie mix and just bake it. Absolutely not. Weed needs to be in a fat soluble. It needs to that THC's got to be sucked out into the fat. So an oil or butter is the best way to do it. Also, do not forget you have to decarboxylate the weed. So you have to like open it up. So like just gonna let you know, it's gonna make your house smell like weed because you have to bake it. The crock pot, not that big of a deal, but the baking of the weed initially, you're about to light up your house for a hot second. So best to just bust it out at an Airbnb. No, I'm just kidding. But okay, so you'd put it in the oven. I think we used to do like 20 minutes at 220. And if you're doing like a pound of butter, you'd do like 10 grams of weed. Um, like 7 to 10 grams, like your typical. So again, 3.5 grams is an eighth. So you'd probably need like at least a quarter, a little bit more to make that whole pound of butter. And so you'd grind up that weed, you'd put it in a tray, you would bake it, and then you take it out. Then you put it in your crock pot with your butter or your oil, and you're going to let that sit at low heat for like hours. I'd say minimum like 4 hours, but I just do overnight because why not? And then you strain it out and you've got weed butter. And you could stick that in the fridge. You could use it for things. You can like there's a lot of ways to use weed butter. I used to make night toast. That was great. Just a little weed butter, cinnamon sugar on some toast or an English muffin. Oh, baby. But you could do this with an oil, anything that's got like a fat that's not going to burn in that crock pot. So yeah, edibles, but great. The hard part is about making edibles is doing the math to figure out how many milligrams are in each piece or each cookie. And then you're not just like dosing your friends like, "Hey, I made pot brownies," and everyone's like a zombie in an hour. We don't want that. So make sure you can do the math on that by the percentage of what the actual weed you get, how much you use, all the sorts of things. And like, yes, there's just a lot of things. So be very careful if you're going to do it at home, but highly recommend dispensary edibles are phenoms. I really like the Wild brand. They're like WYLD. They just taste so good. I don't know if they're just a West Coast thing. I've also had them in California. So I don't know. They're very good though. That's edibles. Then you got topicals. I mean, there's lotions. There is Tiger Balm that is weed infused and it works wonders. And then CBD, that's the non psychoactive part of the plant. That's the healing part. That's the legal in all 50 states. CBD. It needs a little bit of THC to really kick that CBD in, I will say. So that's why I like the Tiger Balm. It's got a little THC in it, but mostly CBD, but it really just and that like camphor and oh my god, so good. But they've got different lotions. My parents are all about the salve, and I think it's just like I think it's got a little THC in it, but they use it for like arthritis and their wrists and their hands, and they love it. And like before bed, putting it on your neck, you just really get it soaked up. I've had a bath bomb that's got THC in it. That felt incredible. They make sugar packets. They make like think like patches, like nicotine patches they make with THC. LOL. Um, who knows? I don't know. Maybe that's your easiest way to get it in. I don't know. People have reasons why they can't do things. So, but yeah, I just wanted to explain weed, marijuana, cannabis. Don't be scared of it. Don't be pissed at it. It's a plant. The fact that our bodies can receive, like, have receptors for it is like we've been having this for a long time. That our bodies are like totally, totally, not made for it, but like able to receive it. Like it's like evolution has brought it to this point that there are receptors in our body for cannabis. That's crazy. That's so cool. So, highly recommend if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Would love to hear. And yeah, stay trippy, little hippie.